just love that that's still a thing. You paid off those reviewers. You paid them off. How did this score from this person who wrote this review score this, and then this completely other different person with this other completely different game gave it this score? I don't understand. It's like, all right.
Oh, really?
Okay,
it's a
whatever.
7? Really? And that's an 8? Okay.
Yeah. Really? Really?
I get it. Like, I'm even, what's funny is, even if it's the same person, in this case, me, and I'm looking at the games that have come out so far this year, I'm like, I'm very inconsistent. I'll give you an example. There's a game that I put like a little grade beside games that I finished this year just to kind of remind myself how much I liked it, especially while it's fresh. So a game like Mini Shoot Adventures, a little indie game made by like 2 people. It's an adorable little twin stick shooter adventure Zelda-like game. It's wonderful. It's just super charming. It's wonderful. So I was like, I can't find any flaws with this game. It wasn't too long. It was really fun. Lots of unlockables. So I do it on a scale of like a 10-point scale up, like 0 to 5. So I can go 4.5 or 4.0. I just gave it a 5, just at an instinct. Like I can't think of anything I didn't like about it. I had a blast with it. I'm telling everyone about it. I loved it. Loved it. I'm giving it a 5. Then I look at the other games I've given 5s, and I'm like, well, is this really like one of the 4 could win my game of the year game? Like, like when you look at it like in a list, it looks a little silly. But when you look at it on its own, it's like I want to give this as high of a score as I'm allowed to because it's so good.
This would make for a good conversation about scores versus the actual review itself. And this is why there are people out there that are like, we just need to get rid of the number system because this is the problem, right? Everyone just devolves it to, well, it has this number. So objectively, it's just better because, point whatever higher than this game. And it's like, that's not,
Right.
So
like, would I actually put that game above Astro Bot, which I also, of course, am giving a 5? No. Like to me, they're not even in the same stratosphere. But doesn't mean I didn't love Mini Shoot Adventure. Mini Shoot Adventure is like Death's Door. It's like a perfect version of that kind of little game. But anyway, yeah. So I'm not always super consistent either. Hey, this episode brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar.
Sure.
What's the slogan? Is there a slogan for recycle me? No, that can't be it. I don't know what the
Coke Zero. It's full. It has 0 real things in it. It's all pretend, artificial.
Yeah.
Enjoy your body dying.
Coke Zero. Enjoy the chemicals.
Yes, enjoy your insides melting very slowly.
It contains phenylalanine.
Did you say fentanyl? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what I said. That's a good way to start the episode. A little fentanyl, a little Spider-Man mug. Yeah, Spider-Man mug. What's in the mug? What are we having?
The rest of the coffee I forgot to drink earlier.
Do you have like a little warmer so it stays warm?
No, iced. It's iced.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I've got a little one of those little Mr. Coffee like warmers, so I put my coffee on there, and it keeps it warm all day, and I'll sometimes forget that it's still on. That's a problem.
So you're predominantly hot coffee person.
Oh yeah, every day, even on a hot summer morning, at least to start the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And in the wintertime, sometimes a second cup of hot coffee, like when it's cold out. But yeah, once it gets really hot, can't do it. It's got to be early in the morning. But
gotcha.
Anyway, episode 237. Yikes, went back 100 episodes. Episode 237 is here. It's back to an old fireside chat with Tim and Dan. We're here to wax eloquent about our strong opinions. Actually, we're setting the video games aside. We're just going to do a complete breakdown of the debate this week because I thought people love talking about that.
The conclusion is we all lost, and
Dan, it's like every election year. How weird is that? Right?
Yeah.
How weird is that?
They won. They still are winning. They still do whatever they want to do, and we lose. Basically,
both political parties and all the news organizations that have us talking about it and giving them millions of dollars in ad money, they're winning, not us. That's
right.
Okay.
And we lose. Yeah.
We lose, but hey, there's been a lot of good video gaming to be had this month, so we'll talk about some new stuff. I know last week Kyle, who's unfortunately kind of last minute, wasn't able to make it because of some work stuff, but he was going to talk.
I actually was confused when you said it's just the 2 of us.
Yeah, he was going to talk a little more about Space Marine 2, which is officially out now, but thankfully last week he already gave us a bit of a preview. I think he's at the end of that game. I don't think did he finish it yet? I can't remember if he said he finished it or not. But
I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I recall him saying it had played a lot of it. So
he's towards the end if he's not totally done. But we'll talk more about that when he gets a chance to be on the show and he can give us his full thoughts. You didn't get that game, did you, Dan? Space Marine 2?
No, but I mean, it looks rad.
It looks awesome.
I actually nabbed the first one. It was only like $15 on Steam. So
Yep.
So, yeah.
I actually did a little Steam splurging myself. Let me pull it up real quick. I've already got the first Space Marine. I actually reinstalled it because I'm like, I gotta finish this game. I played it for like an hour. It was super fun. It was cool. It was a nice flashback style of game. I just gotta play it. I just have to like sit down and play through it because I do want to do that one before the second one. But yeah, I went on a little bit of a buying spree. This was mostly on CD keys because they had games that I've been keeping an eye on for super cheap on CD keys. I do try to buy on Steam when I can, just so everyone knows. I know that directly goes to support the developer, and CD keys gets them from who knows where. So like I sometimes, if it's a big enough savings, then CD keys is sometimes too hard to say no to. But anyway, I got both Plague Tale games, Innocence and Requiem. They were both, I think one was $7, one was $5. I was like, okay. So
wait, dollars, $5 and $7?
I think so. I think that's how much they were.
That's insane. Holy shit. I can't tell if I want to button this. Yeah, that's absolutely bananas. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, well, one was just under 8, one was just under 6. So yeah, like $7.89 for the new one, $5.89 for the old one. Amazing deals for two really, really excellent narrative games with decent action and adventure and stealth pieces. Not amazing, but really great stories and setting. So I bought those. I bought Lisfunga, the Time Shift Warrior, which I loved the demo for that. We actually had a Let's Play of it up on our channel, and it's one of the I've always wanted to circle back to. That was $7 on there, so I grabbed that. I grabbed a couple of very Tim games. One is called Core Keeper, which kind of is like it's a top-down kind of survival adventure RPG. I think it's a little bit more Terraria than something like Valheim, but you do.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, you can build, like, of course, there's lots of mining. You start in this enclosed room, and you have to figure out how to craft. Because at first you're stuck. You're like, dude, where am I supposed to go? But you're supposed to kind of look through and craft a workbench, craft a pickaxe, and then start pickaxing your way. You pick a direction and go. It's very kind of open, very little guidance. But you can play it multiplayer, co-op. It's super fun. Like, it's a charming little game. So I got Core Keeper, got Barrow Trauma, which is like a submarine survival game where you're actually like managing. I haven't played it yet, but it looks really dark and cool. But Barrow Trauma looks really neat.
Barrow Trauma?
BARO Trauma, all one word. Barrow Trauma. I'm not sure how to pronounce it now that I'm saying it out loud.
That's certainly a name.
Yeah, it is. It's a submarine kind of survival game. So I bought that one.
Dude, I like the art of this.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And then the last but not least, it's been on my wish list for a long time, and I saw that it was on sale, so I grabbed it. Rise of the Third Power, which is a horrible title, but it's a Dan game. Like, it is a 16-bit RPG. Like, that's exactly what it looks like. So it looks very much.
I remember. I was watching like some video that was like, RPGs under the radar, like by like small little devs or whatever. This was one of them, and it actually, it like looked really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in that same vein of Chained Echoes and Sea of Stars, and it's kind of modern takes on old school RPGs. So anyway, but you mentioned that just reminded me. I did go on. Sometimes you just go on a little spree, even if there's not a major sale happening. You just happen to find a couple deals. I think the total I spent on all those games, it was like 30 something total.
So not even a full price game.
Yeah,
you got a bunch of games,
and not even like 10% of the cost of a PS5 Pro. We'll get to that. I think that was actually 5%. All right. So Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 is out this week. So is Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Both games that Kyle purchased last week and got early access to and is playing. Of course, he loves Space Marine 2, and he likes the new Test Drive game, although he's honest about, like, hey, it's not AAA, it's not amazing to look at, but he was having a good time with it. We kind of mentioned briefly some other stuff that was coming out this week. I don't know if you've played any of these, so stop me if you have. The Elder Scrolls Castles. The Elder Scrolls Castles is out on mobile. Are you a mobile gamer, Dan?
Predominantly, yeah.
Yeah, mostly on your phone. Yeah. You're playing a game on your phone right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of like the Fallout Shelter game. We talked about that before.
Right.
This game called Elsie that I did try a little bit of a demo for that one. It's got a little bit of a Mega Man X vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Elsie's, I don't know if the reviews are any good, but for the user reviews, but it's out. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop is out. Overall, seems like it's getting positive reaction from people who are playing it.
Okay.
Let's see, Wild Bastards
Cool.
from the people who made Void Bastards. That one's out and
Mm.
getting great reviews. That one looks really cool.
Cool.
Oh, I need to check the reviews on Evo Tinction. This is one that looks like a super high quality.
Oh, the Kojima inspired looking one.
Yeah. Actually, now that I'm,
we're like, oh wait, what are the reviews?
What do you think it's going to be before I open it up? What do you think of the user?
Oh well, I'm already on Steam, so I already spoiler alert now.
Oh, it's listed 93% positive.
Yeah.
Dang.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
That is pretty good.
It's only $30, which isn't too bad.
Interesting.
I wonder how long it is. Okay.
People are saying they've played the demo. It's a solid experience. Now that they've played the full game, it's running smoothly. Okay.
Although this is something for me, I'd want to play on my PS5. I'd like want to sit on my couch and just kind of like chill out and play it because it looks very atmospheric.
Yeah, totally. There's rogue AIs and a futuristic research facility. It does seem like it's pretty Arkham Asylum style, where it's kind of linear and you're in a small. I don't think you're like going out into open world to explore. I think it's very compact, which I'm totally down with, by the way.
Yeah. Also, it adds like because it looks like it's kind of going for a bit of a creepy vibe. It adds like that claustrophobic element to it too, which is going to make it creepier. So
yeah. So there you go. Evo Tinction, funny name, but cool looking game. There you go. Funko Fusion looks like and is reviewing like a pretty mid kind of platformer. I don't think it's getting a ton of love.
I wonder. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how. Like, do you have Funkos? I don't think I've ever really seen you have any Funkos. Because I mean, I have some like, was it like right up here?
And I know that Kyle's got a bunch, right?
Over here. That company is like, I don't know. That company seems like it's like in trouble. I don't know if you have ever heard any sort of the behind the scenes stuff, but it's like it was just like I think there was so much of like them making so much product for a long time, and then like not enough people were really buying them. That it's like they've just kind of like overspent and went too far. So I could foresee a future where the company's just gone, and maybe that's why they're making a game. Maybe they're kind of trying to go off of like, oh, we have all these properties. We're making a video game. Isn't that cool? But it's like, if it's a mediocre game, then I don't know.
Yeah. No, I gotcha.
So, but Well,
there you go. So Funko's a thing. So is Yars Rising. I don't know if you remember the old Atari classic Yars Revenge, that old kind of space shooter from back in the day. Yars Rising is a Metroidvania kind of 2D game from Way Forward. It's also being published by Atari, so it is like officially in that universe. It is. It's getting pretty good user reviews. It doesn't have great critic reviews, the couple that I read, but not bad either. Like kind of sevens kind of vibe. But I think Way Forward, they're not home runs every time, but they make some really fun games.
Yeah, they make some. Yeah, was it the what's that little like genie? She's like a genie. Shantae, yeah. A couple of those have been really fun.
Yep, exactly. They also did like the new Contra game, which I know people didn't totally love, but anyway. So there you go. Yars Rising is out. So is Towerborn, which I'm looking forward to trying. I'm pretty sure this is on Game Pass. I don't know what the general vibe is on it yet, though. It's the one that kind of looks like Castle Crashers.
Oh yeah. I forgot about it, and then you brought it up the other day, and I was like, oh, I want to play this.
Got a 79% positive on Steam. I do think it's on Game Pass. I'm gonna have to check. It might.
I'm positive it is. Yeah.
Oh, because it's published by Xbox Game Studios. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I think we were talking about that last time too. Because
it's the the Xbox exclusive no one's talking about. So,
but I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like with these kind of games, very, very rarely is it like, oh man, like this is like the talk of the town right now. You know what I mean? It's just as long as it's like at least like a 7, like that's fine. Totally on board with that. It's just there's not a lot of these type of games where you're sitting on the couch and you could play with like your significant other or like a group of friends and stuff like that. So
it is technically an early access game. Technically,
yeah.
So keep that in mind.
So there you go. That too. Yeah.
So yeah, Mirthwood, which we've talked about a few times, Stardew Valley, set in that kind of medieval setting. Chef RPG is out this week.
That looks cool.
And then Storm Edge, which I played the demo for last summer, kind of a pixel style action RPG where you go from room to room, clearing it before you get access to the next room. I don't think it's a roguelike though. unless the demo was misleading.
Everything's a roguelike, Tim.
Everything's either roguelike or Souls-like. Pick your poison. So anyway, I don't know. Is there anything else new that I'm missing? It's not like it's been a quiet week. There's lots of new games out, lots of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But between you and me, I don't think we're playing anything new. I don't think.
No. I mean, because again, technically, Kyle spoke to Warhammer a bit last week and Test Drive, so it's like we did have a bit of a discussion about it. Unfortunately, yeah, like you said, Kyle's not here to like really dive into it. So,
hey, the overall reaction to Space Marine 2 is so positive, both critically and with audiences. So good. I think sometimes people just want an absolute video game. Just give me the full-on video game. And
let me just murder a bunch of stuff,
Yeah, give me a chainsaw on my gun in space. Let me fight monsters and rip them into pieces. And let me just do video game things. And sometimes that's all I really want too. So I totally get that.
All I ever want to. Speaking
of sometimes all I want from a video game, it made me think as I was looking at what's going on this month, what's happening with the news. And sometimes you get these deja vu moments. You're like, I feel like whether I've seen this before or this kind of feels familiar. So it got me thinking back. I was looking at, kind of past years and what was happening in certain years. And I thought, you know what, instead of me just picking random years, what was happening in September as we head into the holiday season, what games were released, I thought, let's do an exactly 20 years ago snapshot. So I'm gonna
interesting.
Remind you, see if you remember any of these things too, but remind both of us really about some things that happened 20 years ago. First of all, Dan, 20 years ago, where were you? What were you doing? Were you still in school? What were you doing?
Tim. It's actually insane that you asked me that, and then suddenly my brain's like, oh, damn, I'm literally in 3 days about to turn 38 years old.
Yeah, so you were about to turn 18 20 years ago.
Yeah, so I was graduating high school.
Yeah, you were starting your senior year 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, so I graduated, I was 17.
So dang, so you had finished high school already.
Yeah, so so my mom put me in school like earlier before, so I like started at 4 when I think usually traditionally kids start at 5. So I was actually a year younger than like most of my class. That's why you're
such a know-it-all. See, I get it now.
True. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. No, you're not right. I do know it all, Tim. I do.
Well, yeah, it's true.
But yeah, no, I was graduating. Yeah, so 2004. I mean, what were we playing, like console-wise? Like it was that was the PS2 era. Right?
We'll talk some gaming stuff here in a second. For me, I was starting my senior year of college in 2004, and I was about to get married. We got married that winter, and we lived in
look at that.
They had married student housing. It was super cheap apartments, but you had to be a full-time student. And it was only available like while you were full. So anyway, for like a year and a half, we lived in these super cheap, very student housing apartments, which were great. So we're coming up on our 20th anniversary.
That's cute.
This fall, isn't it? Yeah. So September of 2004. That's what I was doing. I was working. I was delivering pizza still, trying to save up that money. You know what I mean? So working those late night shifts at a small town pizza joint. So that's what I was doing. But gaming wise, as I was looking back through, it's hard not to expand it out to the whole year. 2004, as you look at it, of course, you look at it and go, wow, there are a lot of great games that year. But if you just look at the month of September, so 20 years ago, what was happening in September? IGN's game of, well, you know what? Let me just tell you some notable games that came out, and then you tell me what you think IGN would have picked for the game of the month. So here's a bunch of notable games that were out in the month of September of 2004. We had Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green hit that.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We had Crash Twinsanity, I believe, hit the U.S. Now, some of these I might be wrong, and sorry. Sometimes my Google research, I use a combination of Wikipedia and their actual websites if they still have them up.
What regions did they come out in? Blah blah. So
this is as accurate as I can be. So sorry if it's off by a little bit, but Crash Twinsanity hit that month as well.
We know what Gaston was doing that month.
We know he was busy. Silent Hill 4: The Room.
Oh. Okay.
That month, I don't remember
the
game existed.
Yeah.
Rome Total War, a major strategy game for the PC. The Sims 2, a huge mega hit on the PC, of course.
The sequel to The Sims.
I know my wife and I played The Sims 2 in 2005 once. We got a cheap copy of it from GameStop, like the physical copy with the installed discs.
When they come in the box, they came in the box.
I think there's two, or maybe there's one. Anyway, Star Wars Battlefront hit that year, the first one.
Oh wow. Okay.
Sly 2 Band of Thieves, back when Sony still kept that amazing IP going.
Yeah.
Fable hit the Xbox in September of 2004.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
Burnout 3 Takedown, which I think a lot of people love the Burnout series. Some people say Paradise and Takedown. I think there's a couple of different opinions on which is the best.
I think Takedown's the only one I've ever played, actually.
Okay.
That one was fun.
And then PC only game, but worth mentioning just because Space Marine's also out. Warhammer 40K Dawn of War, which I can attest is a really awesome real-time strategy game. Like I get dominated in real-time strategy games. I always feel like I have super success and have a lot of fun in the first few missions, and then all of a sudden I get overwhelmed because I'm taking too long to build my base and I just get crushed, and I'm like, never mind, I hate these games. That's usually how my experience goes with these. But Dawn of War had just a great pacing to it. I loved that game. So what do you think? And there are probably some others that I missed too, and this is just for September, by the way, of 2004. This is not like the whole. What do you think IGN?
It's a solid month.
Put up as their game of the month, if you had to guess.
I'm bouncing between the two Pokemons or Silent Hill. Am I warm?
No.
All right, so then
I'll give you one. I'll give you one more guess.
The Warhammer one.
You got no, it's not. It's Burnout 3 Takedown was their game of the month.
Okay, wow, a racing game. All right. Okay.
Yep. And so of course I don't know that one has stood the test of time compared to the other ones, just in terms of people that talk about it. I think a lot of people will talk about Fable, or they'll talk about Sly 2, because people who love the Sly series, or Star Wars Battlefront. But I think people usually mention Star Wars Battlefront 2. Follow up to that as the main one. But yeah, so thinking about games that are being featured, this is one that I didn't mention yet, but it was on the cover. I don't know if it came out this month or not, but it was on the cover of the September issue of the Game Informer magazine. So yeah, it didn't come out this month, but it was a game that was on the cover. There's a Rockstar game, a Rockstar IP that is pretty much dead as far as I know.
Bully?
No, but I love Bully. I hope that comes back. It's a racing game.
Midnight. Midnight. I can't remember the whole thing.
Midnight Club 3.
Club, yes, that's what it was.
Dan, this was the dub edition. Midnight Club 3 dub edition.
Yes, dub edition.
So that was on the cover of Game Informer, and it was funny. I was reading through. There are some really great archives out there. People have done incredible work at kind of capturing magazines, gaming magazines specifically, and you can go back through and look at Game Informer or EGM or Nintendo Power and all these magazines, and you can literally like digitally flip through, and it's just wonderful. Yeah. Whoever did that, God bless you. It's really like one of these times. I know that GameScoop has done it, but I think one of these times it'd be fun to go and pick one to look through together, because the ads, the games that are reviewed, the letters that are written, it's very funny. Especially when you realize the similar themes that the letters that people are whining about. It's the same kind of themes you see now on social media. It's just they were writing letters to the magazines.
Yeah. It took a while to get the complaint out at that time. Now it's like that, Social media
you write it out, put a stamp on it, send it in, and then sit there
right now. I gotta
for like 2 months till they finally publish it.
Just sulking. Like I better put that in the magazine. I'm gonna be even madder.
And then they put it in. And just kind of like give you a snarky like who cares response. Like, that was it. Yeah.
Well, that's what you get. That's what you get.
That is what you get. That's what it should be now. You know what I mean? That's how it works now.
It should, the community notes on Twitter should just be like, you're being a whiny little B word. Knock it off. So,
All right. Well, on the cover of Nintendo Power for this month, it's not a game that released this month, but it's what they were covering. They were featuring on the cover of the magazine. It was it's a Nintendo IP that actually just had its 4th game released somewhat recently. I think it was last year, the year before.
4th game?
Yeah. Nintendo IP.
4th game?
Yeah. And they actually re-released at least the 3rd one, maybe the 2nd one too.
Damn, I'm bad at this. I'm not.
It
A fourth
was.
one's not like coming to
You're a
mind.
little spaceman. Got all these little friends helping you move things around.
Oh, Pikmin. There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pikmin
It's
2
because
was on the cover.
Pikmin's
2.
kind of like at the bottom for me with that. So not like anything against Pikmin. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Pikmin
Okay.
2. And then Nintendo also, they had an incredibly popular handheld console that dropped in price. So it was the Game Boy Advance SP, which, by the way, if you go back and play any Game Boy Advance games, that's a great one to play it on. Or the older, or like um, the best version of the DS is a great place to play Game Boy Advance games. So whatever that would be, like DS Lite XL or what, I don't know, whatever the best DS is.
Yeah, there were so many different models versions that they released of that thing. Like even more than the 3DS. There was quite a few. There was even the 2DS, remember that?
That's right.
But that was that was the 3DS, but like 2DS.
And that didn't have the Game Boy Advance slot. So it's got to be one of the DSs that has a Game Boy Advance slot, or the Game Boy Advance SP is awesome. It's got like folds, clicks open, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
It was a slick little system. I liked it. And it was backlit screen. It was really lightweight. I think it only took
one
like
of the best.
two AAA batteries, maybe. Or maybe that one charged.
It charged.
That might have been their first one that charged, because the original Game Boy Advance took 2 batteries, I think.
Yep.
Dude, the SP was great. What a great little system.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
And it dropped in price. What do you think they dropped their price to?
For the SP?
Yeah. So it was still there. So this year, just for some context, they had announced the Nintendo DS, which was going to launch that November. So this was kind of like the tail end of the Game Boy Advance life. The SP
$99 US.
It was down to $79.99.
Oh, okay.
Dude, what a deal! $80 for a Game Boy Advance SP.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So what did the DS release at? 150?
I think it was 150.
150. Yeah.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
I actually didn't get the DS immediately. I got it later. I bought it like on Craigslist or something from someone who was selling a bunch of games with it, and I got a great deal on it. And it was like one of those blue ones, had the blue shell case on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked at GameStop, so I had the employee discount too, and somebody traded in like it was like near mint condition. I was like, oh boy, I'm buying this thing. Like,
it was on my Google search. The blue one's one that came up. That's the exact one that I had. And it was 150. 150.
Yeah, 150. Yeah.
I know this would be impossible to ever do, but when I get all nostalgic and think back on games, I'm always like, dude, for the money you would spend on the library for the DS, I'm not sure you'd get much more value on any other console, handheld or not. And that's not saying it's the best one if we were to rank them. I'm not saying it's the best one. It's just, dude, there were so many great DS games. Like, unbelievable.
Well, you had that backwards compatibility of the Game Boy Advance, which had a crap ton of excellent games. So like, and then the DS lasted a while, so you had a crap ton of good games on there too. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, I love it. Which is also crazy now that, if you open up your 3DS or your Switch and you go download some of the old Game Boy Advance games, they're just these little files. They're just like small little files. You just download and just hit play. It's like, holy crap. Those were full price games. Sony announced some revamped hardware. Do you know what it would have been? It's in September of 2004. This is when they announced.
So PSP related?
No, I don't think so. If they did, then that.
I thought you said handheld.
No, just Sony. Just they announced a revamped hardware.
Okay. The PS2 Slim
is the PS2 Slim. Yep.
There we go. Yeah.
Which I think launched that November, I want to say. But yeah, it's interesting to me that 20 years exactly after they announced the PS2 Slim, they're announcing the PS5 Pro. Just interesting the timing.
Yeah.
Of those two things. 20 years, man. That's crazy. I feel like I still remember that announcement. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think I learned about it at a GameStop, or maybe it was it might have been at the Electronics Boutique that ended up becoming a GameStop. But anyway,
I never, actually now, like, as I'm like, my brain is rewinding. I never really did any of those like in between things. I never got like the point .5 version of a thing or a slim version. Except for actually for the PS4, I had to because my original PS4 did start to act up. So that's actually the only time that I did.
I've only done it with handhelds. So I've done it with
Okay.
Nintendo's handhelds, like with the we just talked about the Game Boy Advance SP. It was just functionally such a different experience with the backlit screen and the better battery or the charging instead of batteries and all that. It just felt different. And then I've upgraded. I actually kept my blue shell DS all the way till I got a 3DS. But when I bought extra DSs for my young kids at the time, which was well into, I think, even the 3DS life cycle, I just got them DS Lites. But I always, that blue one got most of my playtime, that blue DS.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't usually, the last one that I upgraded to was from the standard 3DS to the new 3DS, which had like, has like the little Mario engravings on it. It was like a special edition one or something that came with the Mario game. But anyway, so yeah, I don't usually upgrade hardware, but the few times I've done it, it's usually been it's a pretty major step forward for some reason.
Kind of like with cell phones.
Kind of like cell phones. Yeah, I still have an iPhone 11, and it's doing fine.
There you go.
It's fine.
There you go.
Yeah. Last but not least, there was a game publisher that declared bankruptcy in September of 2004. Do you know who do you think that would have been?
THQ.
No, they were later, but this was Acclaim.
Oh, yeah.
And essentially all their IP was auctioned off.
Yep.
But
okay.
And they hadn't even been around for 20 years. They'd only been around for like 16, 17 years, I think. Maybe a little more than that. But in my mind, Acclaim is just one of those like, oh yeah, they've always been around. And they just went away a couple years ago. Like, nope, they went away 20 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's just because some of the IPs, like, which I admittedly, I nothing's coming to mind immediately, but like I know that they had some like stuff that like when you say it out loud, you're like, oh right, that. And I
want to say they did like the
around.
Turok games. Did they do Turok?
I think that sounds about right.
I just remember they would have the little dot that would go through all the letters and their little like opening cinematic thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to like check if there's like a quick list here, but Wikipedia is just like, I got a bunch of words and blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, I don't need to know the whole history here. I just can't give me the bullet points, damn it.
So they were very prolific. They published so many games. Their final game that was released would be stuff like a bunch of wrestling stuff: Showdown Legends of Wrestling, All-Star Baseball, Carmen Sandiego, Worm Street, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2.
Oh,
that.
Wow.
They published a lot of licensed stuff: NBA Jam, Ed, and Eddie, Samurai Jack.
Ed, and Eddie.
They did Gladiator Sword of Vengeance. Huh. Yeah, I don't remember most of these. Yeah, they did Turok. I was right. Yes, they did Turok.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's like one of the more known ones that I was trying to think of.
NBA Jam series was them. I remember that from like the arcades, Virtua Tennis, Burnout, the original Burnout.
Here we go. Nine Dragon, Two Moons, my dude. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you found, but yeah, I'm having trouble trying to find like a solid comprehensive list, but
take it for what it's worth. But yeah, on Wikipedia they have a list of Acclaim Entertainment games entry in Wikipedia. But anyway, Batman and Robin. So yeah, they did a bunch of WWF Warzone. I do remember the WWF games that just weren't nearly as good as the THQ games, but I remember them. So yeah. So there you go. So Acclaim went away then as well. But yeah, it was it's crazy to think all that stuff happened 20 years ago. Fable's 20 years old. Sims 2 is 20 years old. The original Star Wars Battlefront is 20 years old. Sly 2, Burnout 3. Yeah.
The Fable one's interesting too, especially with IGN not choosing, because it's like I remember that game being one of those games that earlier games that was like development hell a little bit, right? Because it kept being talked about in like magazines and stuff, and
sounds right.
And Peter Molyneux being,
I think they wanted to launch it with the Xbox or shortly afterwards, and it ended up being, what is this? This is probably 2 years after the Xbox launched, 2 or 3 maybe, 3 years after, something like that.
But that isn't that Peter Molyneux's thing. He says a lot of stuff, a lot of promises.
Yeah, because his new game, I don't know if he said it directly or if it's insinuated that this is in the same world as Albion as Fable. And it's like, I don't know if you can do that, my man, but maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. 20 years ago, it's always fun to pause and look back at how old we are, basically.
Yeah.
That's all that was for.
We're old, Tim. We're old.
We are, and that's okay. That's all right. But
True.
hey, listen, the meat of stuff for us to chat through today, sometimes there's not much in the headlines. This week, there's been a lot. And so we will talk about our thoughts on the PS5 Pro and the reactions to it. But we'll save that one for last just because that probably has the most meat on the bone. So we'll go over a few other things. First, number one, in one of the most interesting teams being laid off things that I've heard about. Annapurna Interactive's entire workforce resigned together. So I was trying to figure out what happened, and this is reported by Bloomberg. Annapurna Interactive president Nathan Gary and his entire team, which is apparently a couple dozen people, resigned following a dispute with the group's owner, Megan Ellison. Now, keep in mind, Annapurna has a gaming division, which is this interactive team, which all resigned. And they, of course, do a lot of publishing. They do stuff outside of gaming. I think they're helping to fund TV and movie projects, with Remedy and stuff like that. So, but this is just for their interactive department that has made stuff like Outer Wilds, Stray, Cocoon. They're the teams.
Right.
I didn't like Outer Wilds, but I appreciate what they were going for. And Stray and Cocoon, I did really enjoy both of those.
Yeah.
So anyway, it had to do with this discussion they were having. Sounds like probably an argument about spinning the video game publishing arm out into an independent entity. And then as they were having those discussions, the owner, Megan Ellison, decided to pull out of those discussions. And then, I don't know, they must have been far enough down the road that was a problem. And so big enough problem that they all resigned. They all walked out together. That's crazy. But
did they resign in disgrace though?
I don't know.
Like Ben.
I think they resigned with dignity. Is what I like to think.
Okay.
I think they like to.
Yeah, that's pretty wild though. A whole group of people like that just being like, well, we're all just gonna go now.
Yeah.
That's
it sounds like it was over business decisions, which maybe felt and were personal in some ways. But a lot of times when you hear this kind of thing, at least my mind immediately goes to, oh, this person said or did something that is horrible about whether it was something super offensive or whatever the thing is, right? In our culture today, it was something that got the whole staff to say this is not acceptable. Something moral happened or was said. And no, it seems like it had to do with the business direction. I could be wrong.
Yeah. When I was, because I found I looked at one article just to kind of be like, what is actually the deal here? And it seemed like, is it Nathan Gary?
Yeah.
From what I was reading, I think it was Nathan Gary that he's the one that left, right?
Yeah, he left and his whole team resigned with him.
Yeah,
it was a group decision. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was almost like a support thing. Hey, we like this guy and he's out of here, so we don't want to see where this ends up going, so we're just gonna go.
Yeah.
Sort of situation,
Hey, but also if you've got a first name for your first name and last name, I don't like it. Nathan Gary, get out of here. What are you, Paul George?
Gary Gingrich. Gary
Gergich would be way better.
Gary Gergich.
Or
Jerry Gergich.
So yeah, Annapurna, weird things happening. Of course, we know all the stuff with Microsoft this year. It's happened to every company. It's just Microsoft is such a big company, so the numbers are staggering when you see the number of people that they've let go. This is a much smaller number, but still think about 650 individual people who have been let go from gaming teams. That might be a small percentage, but that's a lot of people. It's the kind of thing that we've talked about. They do say that it is primarily corporate and support functions, so probably a lot of assistance to the assistants is what I'm gonna guess. I could be wrong.
So the Dwight Schrutes?
A lot of the Dwight Schrutes were let go. A lot of the you've seen Office Space, right?
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time, but
a lot of the guy who's I'm a people person. I deal with people. They're what would you say you do here? So there could be a lot of that, middle management roles that are kind of just there. So according to Phil Spencer, and I gotta tell you, I don't know if I believe a lot of what this guy says these days. He's got some trust to earn back with most of us, I think. But he says as part of aligning our post-acquisition team structure and managing our business, we've had to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and supporting functions, to organize our business for long-term success. He also claimed that the cuts would result in the cancellation of no games, devices, or experiences.
Okay. Well, that's good.
There you go. Doesn't sound like it was developers. Sounds like it was the support functions, people who are on the websites or do the marketing or are the, the person who sets up the meetings, the project managers in between, you know what I mean? And I will say this, there is a sad reality. It's an exciting reality in some ways, to have AI tools and stuff that can automate most of the things that a lot of us do. I feel like this is, I could be totally wrong. I feel like this is a result of a lot of that, where as technology grows, the need for like a person to be your project manager or a person to facilitate a meeting and those kind of things, you kind of don't need those things as much anymore. So a lot of the administrative work probably is covered here, but who knows?
It's tricky because you say AI and some people would hear that coming out of your mouth and be like, Tim, how dare you? Can't trust the machines.
Well, I mean, if you've done a Google search in the last like 5 years, you've used AI. Sure. I'm just saying.
Some kind of algorithm by some machine doing something somewhere. But
if you've watched YouTube in the last 4 or 5 years, you've used AI. AI knows you.
But yeah, I mean,
if you have one of these,
it's a tricky thing because it's like in a you can apply it to anything. In a perfect world, like blah 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 blah, then the result is good. But there's always bad people out there trying to do bad things, and they have bad intentions. So in the wrong hands, AI is going to be a terrible thing. But it's all it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing you have to try to balance out and try to figure out. But
agreed.
I will say, anytime some important person like Philly boy over there, whenever they say something along the lines of aligning this and blah blah blah, structuring that, I'm like, all right, listen. Enough of your dumb jargon. Just just say these people just needed to go because their positions just weren't important or something. Like, I don't know.
They always finish it off with talking about how it's going to position them for success in the future, and it's like you just made it sound like those people were holding you back from success. So
also, you say that every time. So when is this future going to be present? Like,
isn't this the future of the last time you fired people?
Like when is this future happening? Like,
I don't know. But it does suck. I think Microsoft, I mean, a lot of companies across the industry, as we've noted, have had a really tough year. Some entire studios closing. Just seems like with the size of Microsoft and the amount of potentially outside investment and moving pieces, I don't know what's happening. Microsoft especially has had a rough year when it comes to being on staff there. But
well, they spent a lot of money, so they gotta
agreed.
Do this, I guess. So
Steam has launched a feature called Families. So you can create a Steam family. You can add 4 other members besides yourself. So you could have a family of 5 people in a Steam family. And the idea is that you can purchase the title once, giving every member of that family full access to that game. You can be online at the same time. You just can't play that one game together at the same time. So like if you and I were in a Steam family, you could play my copy of Dragon's Dogma 2, but if I also wanted to play it, it wouldn't let me. So that's the one caveat. That way, if you had if you all wanted to get Portal 2, I think as an example they used, if you wanted to play that multiplayer, you'd have to buy an additional copy for each person you want to play at the same time. So like if you had 2 copies of it across your accounts, then anyone in the family can use one of those 2 copies at any point. So generally speaking, developers can choose whether or not to support this feature. I don't know if that's really easy to like toggle to turn on and off, or if you have to build it that way. I don't know what that looks like for a developer, but a lot of games currently support that function anyway, where it's the sharing system that was previously in place, but now it's going to shift over to Steam families. You don't have to be online, which is nice. As long as the game itself supports the feature, it's automatically shared. If you're part of that family, it'll be added to your library as a game that's available to you. And important to me, because I'm thinking of adding 1 or 2 of my kids to this, especially my older son who's got a PC now, you can decide like what ratings or even down to specific games they have access to. So if I really don't want them to play fill in the blank game that's in my library, yeah, yeah. So that allows there
Although,
to be a little bit of parental control, also privacy, whatever the thing is. Maybe you don't want to share a game for whatever reason, or maybe you're just like, dude, I don't want this one to be shared because they're always playing it and I never get to play it. Like, there are all kinds of different reasons that you might
sure,
want to not share.
you're the puppet master, making sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this feature is great, and I'm glad it's just something that has existed. Because yeah, like when we bought the Xbox, it's like I'll buy something on like my profile, which is the main one, and it's like, well, then if Renee wants to also play it, then you can just do that. So yeah, if everyone in the household, like, why would you be buying it just seems silly.
I agree.
To just do that. Also, Tim, I will say missed opportunity here, because they're calling it they just called it simply Families. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Steam Family.
They could have called it the like, I don't know, like Fast and Furious family feature or something, the Fast and Furious feature or something. They could have done something. They could have figured it out.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I hope Vin Diesel's
Yeah.
face is on there all over the place when you set up a family.
Yeah, it's just they could have figured something out. It's just missed opportunity.
By the way, I think they were thinking ahead with how people could manipulate the system and like rent out games, like create their own little side business of giving access if you pay a certain fee, which people could still do.
Right.
But every time you remove someone from a family slot, then there's a year cooldown before you can put a new person in that slot. So you got to like think carefully about who you share your library with. The idea is that it's supposed to be legitimately close friends or family that you're sharing with, and then you're going to stick with it. You're not trying to like, steal.
Pretty smart.
Basically.
Pretty smart.
So yeah, there you go. For all the people out there who thought that Shadow of the Erdtree's final boss was too difficult, I have good news for you. They have significantly nerfed the final boss. Everything from how much damage he does to the opening animation of things, which was very difficult. Like, you have to, if you're going to summon someone, you have to do a lot of dodging and moving first, and then look for a very specific window when you have time to even ring your bell, because it's so fast. He's so aggressive. You have no time to do anything. And so, but anyway, this patch nerfs that. I think overall, like, damage to certain things like stamina damage and things like that. And then the visuals of some of the attacks have been apparently edited a bit to make it easier, especially in that second phase, which is so hard to see what's going on. It was a very like, it's not a boss fight that I want to play again. A lot of the Shadow of the Erdtree boss fights I'd happily play again because they were fun, creative, cool music, really challenging, but really good. That's one that I'm like, I'm good if I never have to play that final boss again. It was
but
so
Tim,
hard.
you played the real version though. Now everyone's getting the watered down baby version,
And that's true. And I think it's been nerfed twice. I think it had like minor changes to it initially, and then now this sounds like pretty major nerfs. Yeah. I'm guessing they're seeing the analytics of like how many people are legitimately stuck. And the thing is,
just quit.
When you call in outside help, the boss hits way harder and has a ton more health. So it's not like you can just call in some. I guess you could call in someone who's a super pro if you happen to know somebody. But if you just call in randoms to help you, it's not necessarily going to give you a higher chance of success, because now.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, and I was having
that's interesting.
A lot of trouble when I first fought him, because there was the way I had done. There's lots of different little storylines and side missions, and you can just like in the main game, but the DLC has lots of like NPCs you can do their quest lines with, and if you do certain quest lines, they are now summonable for this final fight. And there's 2 NPCs that I had available for me to summon, and you can ring your bell. So I was like, I'm going to have a group of 4 of us. This is going to be awesome. And I got crushed every time. I was like, why am I sucking so bad?
It's so hard.
And that's because it was like having, like, they buffed the enemy for each of the summons, not counting your own ashes, but for each of the summons. So I stopped summoning the NPCs, and it was just me and my ash winning. But anyway.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. I was like, that's not really fair. They're nowhere near as good as a real player who's good. You know what I mean? Like, that's.
Yeah. Well, the AI is not going to be as responsive. Yeah.
Oh, not nearly as good. But
see, that's when AI fails, Tim. That's when AI fails.
You're right. I'm eating my own words now. Yeah.
True. It came full circle.
It did. Dead Island 2 is getting a free co-op horde mode and new game plus on 22nd. That's cool. That's going to be part of this Ultimate Edition that's going to be releasing, that has the base game, both story expansions, and a bunch of weapon packs and stuff.
Cool.
So yeah, it's going to have a whole bunch of new additions, including this thing. I had to put this in because it's just so funny. They have a co-op horde mode called Neighborhood Watch, where you are. So you have 5 days. You're a bunch of college kids called the Bobcats defending your frat house from a zombie horde, which sounds so funny. But you have a bunch of missions, setting up traps, gathering weapons, preparing your defenses, and on the 5th day, the zombie onslaught begins, and then you got to see if you're up to the task to survive. The horde that attacks. They're also adding New Game Plus, which they're really excited about. So you can dive back into the story, and they're going to add a bunch of fresh skins and weapons and stuff like that too. So it's generally speaking, that's good news for anyone who liked that game, was considering going back in, or who still plays it regularly. They're adding some cool additions. So
I need to circle back around to that, because I actually played it. I don't know if you remember when my Renee and I went to we did that Airbnb, and I had the personal big screen TV that I watched Spider-Man on, and then that was actually, I was playing this there for the first time, so playing that on a big screen. So like I have a special memory.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And this game is like legitimately really fun. Like I'm glad that, like, because it was in development hell.
It's been out for about a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, I think last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. But yeah, that game was in development hell. Like we were all just kind of like laughed and like, this is never gonna come out, and then it did, and it's actually pretty fun. So, it's really cool.
Well, if you think about the juxtaposition between the first game's trailer, which is unbelievable, and then the game itself, which came out super janky and kind of a mess, and not at all what the trailer was saying. Of course, we know that game was updated and taken care of and had great expansions, and people have learned to love it for its kind of swimming in sevens that it is, And so expectations for this weren't super high, and generally speaking, I feel like everyone's pretty positive on the second one.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, I think it's legitimately really fun.
Well, good news. If you were planning on getting Plucky Squire this week, if you have PlayStation Plus, I believe it might be the highest tier, whatever tier it is that you get some day one games. It will be a day one game added to that service.
Hell yeah.
September 17th. So that is pretty awesome. And speaking of PlayStation, the PlayStation 5 Pro was officially revealed. Dan, are you excited? Do you have your pre-order in yet? Are you?
Actually, I already have it. Let me go grab. No.
Oh, you have it right now. That's congrats.
Yeah. Sony sent it to me.
It launches on November 7th. It's going to cost $699.99. Probably going to be over $700 unless you, for some reason, don't pay tax on anything wherever you happen to live. It will include a 2 terabyte SSD. The power of the SSD. I didn't know. Yep. It'll have a DualSense wireless controller. And just like when they did, was it called the Slim? They did another PS5 version.
Right. Yeah, they slimmed it down a little bit.
And of course, that did not come with it. They didn't have an option with a disk drive, which makes sense. And you have an external version you could purchase. Same thing here. It's not going to include the disk drive. It also doesn't seem like it includes a stand, although I don't know if that's confirmed or not. No stand?
No stand. And attachable rather than external, just to clarify.
Oh, the disk drive is attachable?
Yeah. So what the hell's the term? There's a term. I forget what the term is. But yeah, basically you just attach that thing on there like a friggin' transformer.
Nice. And then it talks to you.
Yes, snap it on.
Does your homework for you. Got it.
Yeah, and it goes.
But yeah, so it was revealed this week during a live stream with Mark Cerny. The presentation itself I thought was quite boring, but that doesn't mean you can't be excited about the tech itself.
I know what Cerny's like shtick is.
Yeah, so you get it. You know what his thing. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Upon further review, it sounds like those who have a real eye for and a real deep care for the minute details of like these different kind of loading speeds or this particular increase of frame rate. And I'm not discounting that. Like, that's great if that's really important to you. I like it when things have better frame rates. Don't get me wrong. I do. I like when things load faster. But the percentage increases are just not, for me personally, worth that much of an investment. That being said, it sounds like generally speaking, people are saying, hey, this is good tech for the money. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to spend that money, especially if you already have a PS5. I would say if you don't have one and you're going to invest a bunch of money, either keep an eye out for some cheap PS5s because people might be dumping them and you might be able to get a pretty good deal on a used one or a refurbished one. But number two, like if you really want top of the line, spend a couple $100 more and get, the best essentially the best console that'll be available to you. So there you go.
Yeah.
This research firm called Ampere Analysis, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but they do expect the sales of the PS5 Pro to reach similar levels of the PS4 Pro, which I think was in the 14 million range, which is pretty impressive for a midlife upgrade. Yeah. So even though there's a lot of chatter about the high price, I'm included there. I also am not super thrilled with the high price. For me, this is just for me personally. This is what people don't understand sometimes. I'm not saying it's a bad price for everyone or that the hardware shouldn't be valued that high. I'm saying, whew, that is so expensive. I'm not going to buy another version, a slightly increased version of something I already have for that much money. And then there's lots of comparisons being thrown around. Like, oh, people are saying that you'd spend like twice that on a PC of similar specs. Maybe, but you can also play, I don't know, 2 million more titles on a PC than you ever could on a PS5. Like, the comparison's weird to me. And you use a PC for thousands more things than you use a PS5 for. So I don't understand that comparison. It's not to me, it's not a direct one-to-one comparison of the two pieces of tech, but that's just me. But yeah, I don't have a generally negative view on this outside of I think it's too expensive for me. What do you think?
So at the time when we were like discussing, it was a lot going on in our little group there.
Yeah.
Gaston, you did like 30 posts in like 2 days. All right. Once you settle down.
Yeah, man, just don't buy it.
But like at the time I didn't realize it was actually 2 terabytes. So that's actually kind of nice. That I appreciate that. The 2 terabyte SSD, that is nice, not just one. I do think the no stand is really stupid because it's like, come on, guys, it's a $30 piece of plastic. You couldn't eat that cost. Like, you couldn't eat $30. And then the disk drive is like, well, that's 80. So it's like, you can kind of like maybe argue back and forth.
Seems like they balance it out with the SSD, like, because most people are digital anyway.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
But yeah, like $30 piece of plastic to stand, like just give that to people.
I have the disc version of the PS5, and I so rarely put physical discs in there, to be honest with you.
Okay. So, see, I'm still mostly at least just games that I care about for sure. I mean, there's definitely digital stuff that I've bought because it's like, well, it's on sale, so why not? But I'm old school. I like having the disc. I just just feels good. But yeah, we're already seeing also the friggin' scalpers, Tim, with the external disk drive. So it's like it's the same shit over and over again. Yeah. So
listen, until someone stops them, they're gonna keep doing it. Like, you have to stop them. If they find a way to make money and you don't stop them from doing it, they're gonna do it again.
But it's like, how do you stop something that's just already out, like at stores? You know what I mean? Like, that's the tricky thing with that. But yeah, I mean, I keep using the term luxury item. This is a luxury item.
Oh yeah.
If you have the money, great, and you get that little bump, or not little. It seems like a decent bump in power. What was it, like 45%? I think the percentage they were throwing out in the video there.
Yeah, there was a Digital Foundry has a good breakdown of it.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of NPC. Is it PC World? I forget which website. There was a great article out there where someone got hands-on time with it. PC Gamer, I can't remember. But anyway, there was a great article with some hands-on time that I was reading, saying like, hey, I did notice, like, when I played them back to back, side by side, I could see a difference. I could see like, this is the way I would want to play most games if I had the option in front of me. And they can tell on the way things render, just how crisp and how smooth everything looks. For the games that will get now, some games won't be upgraded for it, and that's fine. They'll play like normal, but a lot of the games will be. I think the most important games probably will be, and I think you'll see a difference. I think things will load quicker. I think you get higher frames, which will make for some people. I think for most people, it'll be like, I don't know what it is. It just feels smoother. It's the frames. Like, I think it's that's what it is.
Well, it's like Cerny was saying, it's because as of right now, and they have like the analytics of it, it's like when the games are giving you fidelity versus performance options, it's predominantly people are choosing performance because people want the games to run smoother. The 60 frames does feel nice. I've said before, like, once I got this PS5 and I was playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, I was like, oh shit, Derek was right this whole time. As much as that hurts my soul to admit, Derek was right.
And it's the only 60
frames is nice. It's the only time. So yeah,
I notice a difference now if I've played that same title in 60 frames and then it's no longer in the 60, then I do notice. It's not like it's unplayable, but it's like,
right.
I prefer it.
Which some people will say it is, but you're insane because we grew up playing N64 games, PS1 games, like they were like 20 frames per second. So shut up, like stop being a baby. But
they
yeah,
apparently
like,
have made it clear like not everything's gonna be in 60. Like they probably will still have games that run in 30 on it, but
yeah, but like basically like the fact that this machine is gonna just more universally allow for that to be a possibility of the two things, fidelity and performance, merging more smoothly and having the smoother visuals and the smoother frame rate is nice. I mean,
I agree.
That 9-minute presentation was boring, but like they literally had the screenshot of the games they were showing, and I mean, I don't know, like I kind of feel like you'd have to be straight up blind to not notice that regular PS5, like it was a little blurrier, like a little bit. Like it just wasn't as smooth. So like, yeah, it's definitely, you can see it. But yeah, again, it's like $700 is just, that's a lot to eat. That's a lot of money. I agree.
Do you see yourself ever wanting to upgrade to it?
So in my head, I was thinking like, okay, like, well, first off, because then I have to also buy the disc drive. I know GameStop is already said like, yeah, we're gonna do the trade-in deal, and it seems like that trade-in deal is really nice. But my whole thing is like, I don't want to trade in my PS5 right now. It's what I predominantly play on. I'm not gonna give that to them, and then like 2 months, like, you know, God forbid something happens too, where my reserve, my pre-order like falls through, and I'm like, well. So my whole thing is like, all right, if that trade-in, if that little callback there. We miss you, Jeff. We miss you.
Yeah, come back, Jeffy.
What are you doing? Stop being famous, you jerk. But yeah, if the trade-in deal like continues for a while, and like once the PS5 Pro is out, then I'll consider it, because it's like, all right, if you're gonna give me like $400 for my PS5, then like 300 and change, not too bad. That's not too bad.
If I could make that swap like on the spot without missing PS5 time, I'd probably
missing a beat. Missing a beat.
Then it'd be a little harder to say no to it. 300 still like it's a lot of money. But
for sure.
I just think there's a better case to be made for like, hey, you're getting good value from your existing system and now you can upgrade. I could be maybe talked into it, but I have a feeling that's going to be a hard thing to swing. Like getting $400 if you just try to sell it, or getting that much trade-in value is going to be also hard. GameStop just wants pre-orders. That's really what they want. They want you to buy their pre-owned games, and they want pre-orders. So I have a feeling they're not going to be offering that very long.
But that's just why brick and mortar stores are important still, because like you can't go to Sony's website and be like, can you take my PS5 and like, you know what I mean? Like that's just not a thing. So it's nice to have GameStop as an option if that's what you want to do, because at least you can kind of finagle some kind of a deal there.
Yeah, agreed. I did hear that they are going to be selling refurbished regular PS5s on their website. I don't know if they are now or they're going to be for like $100 less. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what is it now?
That's crazy.
Is it 400 now 500? For a digital and then 5 for the disc?
Oh, is it 100? Yeah, it is 100 different, right? Because wasn't that the whole thing with Xbox? It was only like a $50 difference, or
I think so.
PS5.
I want to say PS5 is 400 for digital only. I think. No.
Hold on.
Like the slim version. Go to
GameStop. Yeah, because it's like it hasn't actually dropped in price. Like neither of them have dropped in price, which is so that's the crazy thing to me, Tim. Like this is coming out, like they could have like been like, hey, let's shave like $50 off of, and they're hold on. So wait, what's with these prices? These are weird. Is it $30 off? PS5 Slim Console Disc Edition, saying it's $470. I don't know why GameStop's selling.
So probably normally $500 for the disc edition. Yeah.
And then $430 for the digital. So
even if you were to sell it like on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or to a buddy or something,
$40.
You're probably not going to get more than $300 for it. Maybe $350 if you can, convince somebody. But so yeah, it's going to be a tough thing to get good value from your existing one, and then even that won't even be half of what you got to pay for the Pro. So it's just a lot. To me, it's a significant price increase from what the PS5 is. So it's like, I look at what the PS5 is, what it does, how it plays Blu-rays, and it's great library of games, and I love the controller. Like I just played a ton of Astro Bot on it. I play a lot of college football on it, and I'm like, okay, so I have this thing, and you want me now to go back and pay, what is it, 50%? No, it's more than 50%, depending on how much you got your PS5 for. So anyway, it's somewhere between 40 and 60% more for an experience that I would argue overall isn't going to feel like a 40 to 60% upgrade. I understand they're saying some rendering speeds are that much, whatever, but I don't know. When you look at the game itself, is it really 40% better, or is it just slightly smoother? I don't know. And in my opinion, it's not worth it. That doesn't mean it's not worth it for everybody. So,
and
you do you.
For a little context, Tim, compared to the PS4, because I had in our group there, I was kind of thrown because I googled and I was like, what even was like going on with the PS4 and the Pro, like pricing? So when the PS4 released in 2013, it retailed at $400. Okay. 3 years later, the Pro came out, which cost $400.
Yeah.
So they released the Pro version at the cost of what the
because
regular
the other one
version
had already dropped in price, right? And
or they dropped it at that time. I don't remember. Yeah. But that's also the thing too. It's like, is the industry in that bad of a shape where that's why they're not doing that? They're not maybe making this $600 and then like dropping the regular down to, or making this 500 and then dropping the regular PS5 down $100 or something like that. Like, is it just because the economy and inflation? They're just like, well, $700. You know,
I mean, things are more expensive. No one dropped their price on their console this year. I saw the most discounts on Xbox, and you could point to a lot of different reasons for that from Microsoft with how they are or maybe aren't really taking it seriously as a platform moving forward. So those were easier to find for cheaper, but I think the official MSRP has stayed the same across the board. I know the Switch really never dropped in actual price. They just added an OLED version, which was more expensive. And they added the Lite version, which had no more detachable things. It was just a portable one. They did offer a cheaper model that didn't have all the features. So, okay, that's fair.
Right.
So yeah, it has been to be fair to Sony in that case, it has been a generation of hardware that seems like companies aren't able to drop the price like maybe they had in the past. Everyone dropped it in the past. Like one of them would drop at 50, one drops at 100. Like it seemed like a race to see who could stay, relevant in terms of how much people would spend on it. Now it's just kind of like everyone's standing for. I wonder if they all send a note to each other. Hey, we're not going to change. Yeah, we won't change either. Okay, all right, cool.
You're not going to budge, right? No, we're not going to budge. No,
yeah, we're going to stay right here. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. But then even with that, you've got the disc version. You know what? Let's take away the disc version. The digital version is $400 for a brand new PlayStation 5 digital version.
Right.
And you want me to now pay $700 for what is a digital version of an improved console. That's a huge jump, man. That's $300 more.
Yeah, plus tax.
Dude.
So
no, I'm not going to do that. That's just again. That's where my mind goes on it, at least.
That's almost the cost of throwing on another regular PS5 digital.
I know.
It's like once you add on the it's like almost you could buy two of them.
And for the people who are just going to go buy one and maybe keep it as a second PS5 or that'll be their main one, they'll keep like whatever. I look at that and I go, that's 10 full-priced games that I could buy instead.
Sure.
And that's at like max price. So. Just gotta, in my opinion, figure out what your priorities are and spend your money accordingly. But I do think they're projecting this to get about 13 million or so in lifetime sales by the time it's all said and done, which would be very successful for for like a half-life upgrade.
It's an extra thing to have out there as an option, and if people want to buy it, then again. No one's wrong in buying or not buying this thing.
Agreed.
No one is wrong. So we don't all have to, as usual, argue and attack each other.
If someone's excited about it and says, I can't wait to get it, and someone else says, it's not really for me, I think both those people are totally fine saying both those things. It's when the person who's excited gets mad at the idea that you're not as excited. I'm like, well, what's your deal? It's also when the person who's not excited is mad at the person who is. Like, you shouldn't be excited. Here's like, I think both stances are really stupid. It's like, let people be excited. They can overspend if they want on something that you wouldn't spend. Okay.
Right.
Because you probably spent money on something they don't care about. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people probably didn't buy the Mesmer trophy from Elden Ring. That's right here.
Dude, I have like, look at all this shit. All this it's just plastic. All I have is plastic over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a bunch of plastic.
Did you notice I got a shelf up here now?
Oh, oh my God, how did I not realize the shelf that you mentioned last time you were making by hand? There you go. Look at that.
The paint was drying and it's working. It's got not all, it does, like all my Xbox and PlayStation game cases are still stacked on the floor down here, so I'm going to get additional shelving. For right now, it just has Switch and 3DS.
How did I not notice
boxes.
Literally shelf?
Yeah.
You're getting there, Tim. It's slowly but surely, like, spreading like a virus. Your wall is expanding.
It is. It's like in those things where like the mark of the dragon or whatever is growing on your body, and you're slowly turning the stone or whatever. Anyway,
all you need is some LEDs, Tim. You just need some LEDs back there.
I know.
That's all you need.
Where though?
Where
do they go? Do they go like behind like on top of the shelf behind the thing? So right? Is that how you do it?
You can either do like right behind it and then edge that stuff out a little bit so it reflects off of the wall. Or like right on the front of the shelf there, and then it's kind of bouncing off of that. But then it kind of maybe is too bright. So I don't know. You got some options.
You got to play around. You got to play around.
You gotta. It's like Picasso. You got to paint your wall with LEDs and figure out how it sticks.
Yeah, but this shelf was made with just we had a couple of extra pieces of wood that they're pretty easy we just had to like size them up because there were two different sizes, so I just had to. It's fun to finally use these tools that are sitting in my garage, so it was nice to pull out the table saw and the jigsaw to get them perfectly like lined up, and then I have all these extra brackets that I've just kept from different projects, from different things we've had that just go into the toolbox, and I have this whole drawer of random brackets and weird tools and stuff. And I finally used a bunch of them, So.
There you go. Yeah, you Ron Swansoned it up, and you got a nice little shelf there.
That's right.
You got a nice little shelf.
Painted it, gave you a nice white paint with the black brackets on there. It's not bad.
There you go. Not too shabby, Tim.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap things up. I don't mind it, by the way, having a shorter episode here and there. I have a feeling as these bigger games start to hit, we're going to be talking for way too long.
That's what we do.
So a nice, slightly briefer fireside chat. It's fine by me and my voice. So
easy breezy.
But there are some things I've been playing. I know you as well. So no rush on this. Like, what are some of your games you've been playing or things you've been watching that you want to highlight, especially things you've been streaming that you want to talk about too?
So last time I mentioned I finished Dragon's Dogma 2, which I have a feeling maybe you bring up.
What? Why?
So I don't know. Just a hunch.
Just a hunch.
But, yeah. So after finishing that, now I have two other big games. I can shift my focus to just two big games instead of having three big games, and that is Wukong and Star Wars Outlaws. Nice. So this week has been predominantly me playing Star Wars Outlaws. But it's fun. It's just kind of it is your typical Ubisoft formula with the sort of theming of Star Wars painted over it. But I'm not disliking it by any means. It's fun. I like the sneaking around. There's definitely a large emphasis on sneaking around. Which and then
you can bomb people in the head to knock them out instantly for hours.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's very strong arms. Incredibly strong.
Deceptively strong because they don't look. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. It's inner strength, Tim. It's inner strength.
That's right.
That comes out in that moment.
By the way, most people that talk about this, even the folks like at IGN and other places that have given it like middling scores, 7s and 8s. Actually, that's good scores. Let's be honest. But even they've all been like, yeah, but it's really fun. Like they have a lot of fun with it. People seem to be really enjoying it. And by the way, I haven't played it much since launch. That first couple of days I played it for a little while.
Oh, okay.
But it took the sideline to a couple of other games I'll talk about. But it's very quickly going to be coming back into the focus here pretty quick.
Yeah. I like Kay. She, like we discussed, she has that sort of like, what is it, wet behind the ears or whatever the saying you would want to use, where she's just very kind of figuring it out on the fly at the beginning. And then, as the story is going to progress, like she's obviously gets more used to like doing what she's doing and everything. But yeah, like there's all these side characters that to me like all fit within the Star Wars universe, and at least for me, like as a casual fan, seems like they fit well, and are acted well, and have like kind of that little quippiness sometimes that characters have in a Star Wars property. So, and Nix is really cute. He's an adorable little fella, just hanging around, and good detail too, which they do in a lot of games. But I appreciate when like you have a little creature as a companion, and like if you can go tell them to go retrieve something, it isn't just like it's not just like sloppily done where they go get the item. You actually see Nix like climb up a pipe and then kind of like crawl, like run over the whatever it is to get to the other side, picks it up, runs.
Someone
back
actually
the
programmed
same way.
that pathing for him in the environment, which is awesome.
Yeah. Like he doesn't just like hop over like, oh sure, he can just hop over this like gap here. He actually like climbs over, grabs it, brings it back. So yeah, just like little things like that I appreciate, and because he's just a cute little fellow. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. The space combat is like really straightforward. But not like it's not bad or anything. It's just the space stuff is also like it's not like No Man's Sky or even Starfield. It's not like that in depth or anything. It's more kind of like you have the planet, and then like you kind of have like an area in front of the planet that you can kind of explore a little bit. But that's fine. I mean, they're trying to focus kind of more on I guess the planets and exploring that stuff. Although there are so I made it to this one planet, this snowy planet. Was it Kimiji? I forget what it's called. It starts with a K. And the like space area outside of the plane on the front, there's like a lot of like debris and stuff, like planetary debris, and then there's like this like cloudy sort of areas, and like you're flying through and you can't see shit, but then there's also these like large icy things, like so you're like freaking you have to like slow down and then like kind of like it's actually really cool because you're like, oh shit, am I gonna just like suddenly plow into something? But there's like these little like stations that you can like pull up to and like park inside of it. And then I pulled up into one. There's just like a bar in there. There's just like kind of people hanging around. So it's like, it actually is like still kind of feels lived in though, even though it's like a smallish, in comparison to those other games. Like you can kind of just pull up to this little like pit stop sort of like station thing and go inside, and like there'll be people in there that can like give you some of those whatever you want to call them, the little side missions to crank up your reputation with whatever group that you're trying to do. So, yeah, I think it's a very solid, in the sevens area, whether you're going for high sevens or not. So I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun. Nice. And yeah, Wukong is hard, but really fun also. That's a tough game. Yeah. But I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool. Yeah, I didn't touch that one too much this week. I did.
Wukong is really cool, and I didn't get far enough in to get super hooked. And I have a feeling that I will at some point, and even the challenge is going to be like something that is part of the hook. But I wanted to play Astro Bot and a couple other things, but I do plan on giving it another real try. But I have a feeling this could end up being a game not unlike Baldur's Gate 3 from last year that I admire. I really enjoy parts. I'm just not in the mood for that kind of a thing. I'm not really up for that. Like then I wasn't up for that deep of an RPG where I have to manage everything, and like it was just too much. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to get into this. And so for this, I'm like, I don't know. Do I want something? I just played Sekiro, which I didn't finish, but I'm towards the end of Sekiro. Do I want to do another like super challenging thing? I don't know. But I do like a lot of what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about Wukong too, because again, it's not literally a Souls-like. It is very much like a traditional action game. You can you're very much rewarded for exploring the areas. And I was stuck on this one boss in the second area of the game, and I was like, man, like this guy is just whooping my ass. And I'd get like close a couple of times, but I was like, he's just demolishing me. Because he's like a big guy, but he's like moving around really fast. And just doing some stuff that's kind of annoying. So I was like, let me go like level up. Let me like backtrack and like level up my monkey dude. And I discovered this area that gave me a key to get through this to get into this structure that was like blocked. I was like, I don't know how to get into here. I'm gonna obviously have to find something, and I couldn't find it until I did. And then when I went in there, I fought something in there, which then unlocked another thing to go to this other place. Eventually, basically, I fought like a boss that gave me an item that made that boss easier.
Nice.
I got an ability. I got like a thing that was like, oh, like it's basically like for this fight that I'm struggling to do.
Dang, that's
so
cool.
Like you could fight that boss if you're really, really good and you'd be fine. But like I went and, kind of sidetracked some more and like found a thing. And that is like, oh, now I have this at my disposal. And it made it. It still took a few attempts, but I did beat him. So now I'm in the third area. Nice. So yeah, it's gorgeous. That game is so pretty.
Game. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of like muted colors. There's a lot of browns and blacks and stuff, but like, I mean, the first area is pretty lush, and then the second area is a little more mountainous and cliffs. It's cliffs, Tim.
The cliffs. Some cliffs. So good.
And then the third area is cold. So I'll say it's cold. But yeah, there's definitely a variety there, but it's a very like serious in tone game. So I think it just the realism of it and just having very realistic terrain and greenery and all of that because I feel like some people like that are very anti like games being super hyper realistic. That's like their complaint. It's just like, look at all these browns and blacks and grays, and it's like, well, I mean, that's also just what the world. That's what the Earth is. There's a lot of greens and then the dirt and there's brown. So, but yeah,
and hey, this game might have the best, like story-wise at least, and set pieces opening of any game.
The thing's sick. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's very flashy. It's a good way of just kind of being like, oh, this is like probably like where we're gonna end up at. Like, when all said is done, it's like that's pretty cool. So
yeah.
It
reminded me a lot of like the two newer God of War games. Just that opening set piece just had a lot of vibes of that.
Yeah, just very just I don't know what the hell the word I'm trying to
or
think
even
of
like
is,
or even
grandiose.
like Final Fantasy Rebirth, where it was like, holy crap, the fight's now moved to here. This is like it was a lot of that kind of your adrenaline's pumping. Yeah, it was very much in that vein.
Yeah, it's very grandiose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I'm just I'm pretty close to finishing Final Fantasy IV, I think.
Nice.
So I'm trying to like squeeze in some like I'll stay up a little later than I usually do when I do my Friday stream. Just to kind of because I wanted to finish all 6 this year. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm pretty sure I could definitely at least finish 5 of them, and then maybe I start next year with 6. But 4 is really cool. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a favorite of a lot of people.
Yeah, well, of the Pixel ones, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
But playing them back to back has been really, really fun and interesting. Thinking about the first 3 Final Fantasies and then going into 4, like what a substantial jump in like presentation, story, characters.
Yep.
Because like the first 3 are very kind of like there's not a lot going on there in that respect.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's quite the jump.
Nice.
So
that's what you're streaming right now. Is you're finishing up 4 on stream?
Yeah. And then next month is October, so I'll probably squeeze in a couple of horror games, which is why I don't think I'll finish all 6 this year. But
I'm gonna go spooky.
Yeah, I want to do. I finally want to play Signalis. I've been wanting to play Signalis.
Ooh.
And I just haven't. And having streaming is like a good way of kind of be like, hey, I can like let me squeeze this in here. I'll stream this. So I've been wanting to do that. So I'm thinking
I will humbly submit the idea of, because of its spooky nature, especially with the ghost element and the afterlife element, Banishers be a great October game as well. It's a little lengthier, and it's got a really like in-depth story that you might want to play not on stream, so you can really like pay attention to it. But boy, is it really good.
Yeah, I do want to get to that one eventually. Yeah, because that one, like how you were, just from every time you talk about it, it's like, I mean, well, because it's from the what are the guy? What's the
Vampire and Don't Nod. So they did like
Don't Nod. Yeah. So very good like character.
Very good characters, great voice acting, and pretty good looking world. It's hard because there's been a year of some gorgeous games, so of course it's not at all on the plateau of Wukong or Rebirth or Astro Bot or some of these games that are just like visuals are perfect. But pretty decent visuals. There's going to be moments where you're like, hey, that looks pretty good, and competent, sometimes fun, but mostly usually just competent combat, but an excellent story and characters, man. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And a good one for spooky season for anyone listening or watching. Banishers
Yeah.
is a great game to go revisit as we get closer to Halloween, ghosts and afterlife and spirits and demons and all that kind of stuff. Like as you're looking for something that's in that vein, and something that's not just another zombie game or another
Sure.
spooky game where they're trying to gross me out. Banishers isn't trying to gross you out. It's actually like a deep, thoughtful story. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I should keep an eye out on that one for a sale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an excellent one. All right. Oh, anything else?
No, that was, I haven't watched anything. I need to watch some stuff, but
same here. Football season's here, so most of my TV watching time is on football season, and I have been watching a lot of clips of some of my favorite stuff on YouTube. Everything from Dudesy and Bad Friends and all that kind of stuff. Like those are just fun, kind of let me escape reality and watch a bunch of dummies talk about dumb stuff.
Just being dumb.
Just being dumb, and it's fun. I need that in my life. But gaming wise, yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I purchased Core Keeper, which I did. I tried it a little bit. I'm going to play it a lot more. I think that game's a lot of fun. I love the art style and the music's really cool. But yeah, it basically throws you in there and says, hey, go survive, start building stuff. So I'm going to start working on it. I'm going to play it mainly single player. But if it turns out that it's something that is either boring or really hard just by myself, I could see myself I might try the Steam family thing and have my son have a Steam account on my Steam Deck, and then I'll have on my PC and we could try that way.
Yeah.
I do think it hits consoles soon, though. I think it's on PC now. It's been on early access for a while. It just hit 1.0 release. I'm pretty sure at the end of this month it hits Switch. I'm pretty sure.
Keeper or Keepers?
Keeper. So I think it's on the newest consoles and PC, I think. And it's going to be on the older consoles and Switch, I think, later this month.
Keeper. Yeah, it's out. It's out on PS5, so I would assume it's...
Yeah. So it's on PS5 and Xbox Series X. I think Switch is in a couple weeks. So there you go. So that game is really fun, really charming. If you kind of like the Steam World Dig, Terraria, I don't know, that kind of vibe, it's pretty fun. I haven't gotten into much battles yet. I've only fought a few things, but I've heard it's actually got a little more fun with the combat compared to some other stuff. I'm playing a lot more Shogun Showdown, which I talked to you and Kyle about already. I've done probably 5 or 6 runs. I've unlocked a few other characters. Again, very much like Into the Breach, although Into the Breach you have a team. You have like a team of mechs that you're using. This is just you have one character who's going through and just like wrecking shop across all these samurai settings, which is really cool. But yeah, the abilities you get and when you start chaining things together and timing it out right, it's super satisfying. This game is awesome. So I highly recommend Shogun Showdown. For those of you who don't know, it is a kind of a pixel art game. It's from a side perspective, but you have these little tiles you move between, and it's kind of a sort of a turn-based strategic thing, but it's a roguelike as well with some really good upgrades. I've done a couple of runs where I really focused in on ranged weapons and kind of dodging back quickly. I've done a couple of runs where I focus on a spear where you're trying to line up the enemies and then hit them all at once. I've done one where there's a grappling hook where you're trying to pull them to you and hit them with a heavy weapon or a sword. So yeah, there's a bunch of different like builds you can do depending on what comes your way during the roguelike run.
Yeah, I like the pixel art of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Great music too.
It's nice.
As you mentioned, yes, I am playing some Dragon's Dogma 2. I think I'm like 3 hours in-ish, something like that.
So you're like 0.1% done with it.
Hey, 10% of the main story according to the time spent. But I've only done like 2 of the main missions because I have already once given the freedom to start recruiting pawns and start going whatever direction you want, taking these side missions that come up pretty organically. Which in a way is a little stressful, but I'm taking it as like, you know what? However I end up running into certain characters and getting missions, I'm just going to take it as that. I don't have to do all these. I'm going to try to otherwise I'll just be stressed about it the whole time. Like, oh, I probably missed a mission. Like, yeah, I probably did, but that's okay. Like so they do happen organically. You'll be walking through town and someone will call out to you and then you talk to them and you get a side mission. Like I'm sure the game has these things in place where it makes sure that you get some of the important ones pretty easily, I would imagine. I already discovered that going out at night is not a great idea unless you're ready.
You have a lantern on you at least, right? Like
I do have a lantern, but dude, I got these huge ghost wisps things that started attacking me, and while we're fighting them off, one of the Cyclops comes barreling through the forest and starts attacking us, and it was crazy. Like my son was actually watching me play. He's like, "This game is crazy." I was like, "I know," as I was like trying to run around and block and climb up, and I realized like, even though I had just upgraded my sword, the Cyclops in the story very early in the game is much easier to beat. This one was so tough. Like I was doing barely any damage. So I eventually just was like, "To me," and we ran away.
Yeah, we gotta go.
We're out of here. But I like that. I've talked about that before in games like Elden Ring and The Witcher 3 and Zelda, where it's like the feeling of I could get in over my head at any point adds an air of fun and mystery and danger to the world that you're exploring. And I like that. I like that in every game with exploring in it. So
especially this game, because like how Kyle and I discussed, like to me, this has very much that energy of Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom, of just kind of wandering around. And you're like, what's that over there?
Yeah.
And you go there and you're like, oh, this is so cool. I just found this cave and there's cool stuff in here. But yeah, what class did you go with?
Fighter. So I'm using my shield. I got parry now, which is great. And sometimes in the chaos of a fight with lots of enemies and allies, it's impossible to use parry because you can't see who's winding up for a swing. But if you can kind of get separated out enough with the enemies, the parry works great. It's a really great way to do some damage quick because you can really stun them and then start swinging away. And then I have these two moves. One of them is that kind of like this dash forward stab, which is very effective. It recharges really quick, does good damage. And then I have one that's good for harpies and for those ghosts that you kind of do a flip in the air and like try to knock them down out of the air.
Those harpies are like early on, they're such a pain.
So when I first encountered them, I was like, am I supposed to go find a place to jump off and hit them? How do I get these stupid things? So that was annoying. But then the second time I faced him, I had upgraded my skills and had gotten this jump attack where he does a flip and knocks him out of the air. And I was like, okay, now I'm liking this, you know?
Yeah, so. Is it Thief? I forget if there's an upgraded version of Thief. But I basically went with the dual wielding the dagger guy.
Yeah.
And that one that class is pretty perfect. And there is an ability that you get that's basically like a whatever you want to call it, like the equivalent of what Scorpion shoots out of his hand, but like a rope. And you can basically hurl it at something, whether it's something flying or on the ground, and like pull it towards you.
That's awesome.
And especially with ground enemies, like it's actually really sick because if there are if there's like a goblin or something like on the edge of a cliff, it's really funny because if you get them with that, they'll just like freaking flip like off of the cliff and like land on the ground and their body's just all flat and you just freaking stab them. Like, it's pretty great. Like, it's funny, this game is so cool.
My 6-year-old had walked in this morning while I was playing it a little bit, and I was in this cave. And I was fighting goblins here and there, and I picked up a big rock, and he thought it looked so funny, me walking around with this big rock in the cave. And I just threw it, and it just killed a goblin with one hit, like just like by throwing it to him. So like this game has a lot. Like it reminds me in a way of Baldur's Gate 3, where it's a little bit like, you can kind of do anything. You might not want to do all of it, but you can. So it's got a lot of that freedom, which I think is great. I will say it's not necessarily the prettiest modern day game, but it's got its moments where I like the design or I'll like the environment, but just there are times when after playing something like Wukong or Rebirth or some of these other games that are the fidelity and level of detail is so high, there are times in this where I'm like, well, that texture is a little bit whatever, or like their mouths are not even close to like in-game graphics when they're talking, or like, ooh, it's not quite right. But the cutscenes are beautiful, you know?
Yeah. The environments, like there are like areas when you go up really high and you look off in the distance, it's pretty beautiful.
Okay, nice. So the distance views are really cool.
Like it's not like you're saying, it's not like literally the sharpest, but it's just like the vista that will be in front of you if you just look with the mountains in the back and just like the trees and everything. It's just like it's actually very pretty and you can see pretty far. So
yeah, one thing to consider too, a game like Wukong, it's not wanting you necessarily, at least in that opening level, it's super lush and so detailed, but there's not really a ton of like off the beaten paths things to do, especially not compared to Dragon's Dogma 2.
Dragon's Dogma is wider.
It's very, very wide, and so it's easy for me to like get into a mode of, hey, everything's not going to look as detailed as a game that's much more linear. So I totally get it. I totally get it. It's not it's but by no means an ugly game, but there are times when I'm a little bit like, because I've got it all on max settings with this fun new PC that I've got. So everything's like maxed out. It runs pretty consistently at 100 to 120 frames per second. So it's very smooth, but there are times when I'm just like, well, that doesn't look great, or that person's face is funky, or whatever. But that happened in my favorite game of all time, of modern games at least, Witcher 3. Like that happens all the time in other stuff too, where something loads up a little funny. And last but not least, I finished Astro Bot today. Nice. I'm totally gonna keep playing it because there's 300 bots to rescue. So think of those as kind of their version of stars to collect. And every standard level has 7. All the challenge levels have 1. Some of the bonus levels, I think there's 4 of those total, have, I think it's 5. So anyway, each one, it's very good at telling you how many you have in each level. Have you gotten the secret exit to the Lost Galaxy level that's here? Have you gotten all the puzzle pieces, which unlock new shops back at your home planet where you can upgrade? Like you can put on new costumes. You can go in the safari park and take pictures with all the little Astro Bot animals, which is super funny. Or you can upgrade your little PlayStation 5 control, your DualSense ship that you fly around on. So you can change the color on that too. So they have all these unlockables. Man, is it good. The final thing was so like over the top and silly. Sometimes it reminds me a little bit of like how they do Donkey Kong enemies with their silly Saturday morning cartooniness, and a lot of times like Mario vibes. So yeah, I just start to finish, super fun. And some of the bonus levels, I think there's 4, and I won't say what they are, but they're so great. They take Sony IP that all of you will recognize. One of them maybe is lesser known. It was a great PSP game, and I think it's been on maybe Vita, maybe a few other places. That level's so fun. Even if you don't know what the IP is, that level is so creative and so fun. And the other 3 are from absolutely banger IPs that everyone will recognize. And the powers they give you for those are a blast to use.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did a great job, man. Like you don't even have to be a big Sony fan to appreciate it, but the final boss especially really kind of the way they do that level and the way things come together, it really embraces like dude, PlayStation's awesome. Like their consoles, their controllers, their IP, like so fun. It was a great celebration of all that stuff while being a fantastic 3D platformer in its own right. Like really, really excellent.
Yeah. I mean, geez, imagine being part of a team that makes a game like this, a platformer, and like being compared to freaking Mario. Like,
I know.
Like that's high. That's high praise.
That's high praise, dude. It is
high praise.
It's the only non-Mario game that, in my opinion, has truly challenged Mario for like quality, production quality, and values, but also just how it feels to play, to how it feels to move around in the space and jump, and your sense of space and how far you can jump, and you have a really good feel for how the powers work. Multiple times you kind of chuckle or smile to yourself. You're like, well, all right, well, that was pretty good. Like,
sure,
whoever thought of that? That was really clever. Mario games do that. Most other games don't. Most other games are pretty fun. They're charming in their own way. This game is so much on the same level. In my opinion, it's on the same level as the best Mario games. So,
well, I mean, Sony's been around for a long time, so they have quite a lineage of stuff to play around with there, you know. So,
and they'll pull out. There's so many characters that I've rescued. I would say most I recognized, but there's a lot that I'm like, I have no idea what this is supposed to be from, but it's clearly a character or a creature from something. There's plenty of those.
Or it might be a Japanese only IP that we've never even gotten here, but they're gonna put it in there, right? You know,
I think they said there's like 150 something games that are referenced or represented in some way, shape, or form. Wow. So anyway,
that's crazy.
I loved that game. All right. Well, I think that does it for us for this week. You know, next week, hopefully Kyle will be able to rejoin us. One of these weeks, we're going to try to convince Jeff to jump back in because he has gotten back into gaming a little bit in between all of his music making. So hopefully he'll join us again to talk about not only his time away, but also what has he been jumping back into. I want to hear his take on some of these games that we're playing. But we're only a couple weeks away from stuff like the new Starfield DLC. And the new Zelda game is going to be out in a couple weeks. So really excited to talk about those. But that's not this week. for Dan and myself, our fireside chat, which we should have put up a fire, and I'm sorry that we didn't create one for you guys.
Yeah, we need to have like a green screen, like an actual fireplace.
Fire. Yeah. And we need to have like some hot cocoa or something that we're sipping.
Like a robe, you know,
a robe,
pipes.
Or like when Nick Offerman just sat there. Have you seen that video of him sitting there just sipping whiskey for like 50 minutes?
I mean, it's a long video. It's super long. Like,
it's one of the best things ever.
Yeah, it's just absurd.
And I've the comments on that, by the way. It's worth looking up. Look up Nick Offerman drinks whiskey in front of a fireplace. And it's just him drinking whiskey and he's looking at the camera and he's just chilling. And the comments are amazing. People like calling out different timestamps and how brilliant he is. It's so funny. So funny.
It is. He's great.
Anyway, all right. Thanks, Dan. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.